Here's something that nobody wants to admit. Most of the learning advice you've been given is actually making you worse at understanding complex topics. Let me show you exactly why this simple framework works where everything else fails. Your brain builds knowledge by connecting new information to existing knowledge. Think of it like a spider web. Every new concept needs something familiar to attach to. Think of your brain like a sophisticated search engine. The memory with rich connections are like highly ranked pages in the search algorithm. Your brain is a pattern matching machine, not a data storage device. Your neural networks are constantly looking for patterns and connections. You understand through connections and relationships. Now here's the biggest lie in education. We are told that memorizing facts equals understanding concepts. There's something deeply satisfying about truly getting something complex. Once you experience that feeling of genuine understanding, you never want to go back to surface level learning. Here's something that nobody wants to admit. Most of the learning advice you've been given is actually making you worse at understanding complex topics. Think about it. Those methods that you were taught in school, they're designed for memorization, not comprehensions. And trust me, there's a huge difference between the two. So if you've been following along the last couple of weeks, we started by understanding why complexity feels so overwhelming. Then I walked you through the complete S.I.M.P.L.E framework, step by step, using machine learning as an example. I have attached the links to both videos in the description below if you want to check it out. But you might be sitting there thinking, okay, this sounds good in theory, but what actually makes this better than other learning methods? And that's a fair question, because here's the thing, if you keep using broken methods, you're going to keep getting broken results. So let me show you exactly why this S.I.M.P.L.E framework works where everything else fails. Let's start with how your brain actually learns, because most people get this completely wrong. Your brain builds knowledge by connecting new information to existing knowledge. Think of it like a spider web. Every new concept needs something familiar to attach to, or it's just gonna fall down the cracks. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you learn something new, your neurons literally form new connections called synapses. But here's the key. These new connections can only form when they can link to existing neural pathway that you already have. It's like trying to build a bridge. You need solid ground on both sides. Scientists call this elaborative encoding. Your hippocampus, which is like your brain's AI's assistant, takes new information and tries to connect it to memories and knowledge you already have. The hippocampus initially encodes all incoming information. But here's where it gets fascinating. During the consolidation process, when your brain replays experiences during rest and sleep, the hippocampus acts like a sophisticated editor. It selectively strengthens memories that prove behaviorally useful while allowing less relevant information to just fade away. And here's the key connections. Memories that are well connected to your existing knowledge are far more likely to be flagged as useful because they can be retrieved easily, applied in multiple situations, and help you recognize patterns and make predictions. Think of it like a major highway intersections versus a dead-end road. The intersection gets maintained and expanded because it connects to multiple destinations and serves many purposes, while the dead-end road often gets neglected because it only leads to one place. It's the difference between a standalone fact floating in isolations versus a fact that's woven into your broader understanding. the connected information becomes part of your usable knowledge toolkit. But what happens to information that doesn't make these connections? That's where the science gets really eye-opening. Hermann Ebbinghaus, a German psychologist, discovered something called the forgetting curve, and it reveals exactly why poorly connected information disappears so quickly. He found that within an hour of learning new information, people tend to forget up to 50% of it. And then within 24 hours, this can increase to 70%. And then by the end of the week, people tend to retain only about 25% of what they've learned. It's important to acknowledge that this is not a flaw, although it may sound like so. It's actually a mechanism to allow your brain to protect you from information overload. Your brain is actually doing its job by prioritizing information that has proven useful and letting go of what hasn't. And the reason why memories with connected information is treated as first-class citizen by the brain is because, first of all, well-connected memory can be accessed through multiple pathways, making them easier to recall when needed. And second of all, connected information helps the brain recognize similar situations and apply learned knowledge. And finally, memories integrated into existing knowledge networks enable better prediction and decision making. On top of that, connected information can be used across different contexts, increasing its utility. Think of your brain like a sophisticated search engine and knowledge graph system that's constantly optimizing its database. Just as Google's search engine doesn't store every single web page with equal priority, your brain performs intelligent garbage collections by keeping the high-referenced interconnected information while letting poorly connected, rarely accessed memory get deprioritized or deleted to free up storage and processing power. It's all coming down to resource optimization. Just like a well-linked web page can be found through dozens of different search terms and referral links, well-connected memories have multiple indexes pointing to them. The memory with rich connections are like highly ranked pages in the search algorithm. They get first-class citizen status because they are incredibly valuable to the system. Your brain is essentially operating a continuous machine learning process, strengthening the neural pathway that prove most valuable while pruning the connection that don't contribute to the overall system performance. And speaking of information overload, here's where most learning methods completely break down. Your working memories, that's your mental workspace involving your prefrontal cortex and other brain regions, can only hold a limited amount of information at once. More than that, and your brain literally stops processing. It's like trying to juggle while someone keeps throwing more balls at you. But here's where the S.I.M.P.L.E framework is different. We introduce one concept at a time, allowing your brain to properly encode it into long-term memory before adding the next piece. We're working with your brain's natural processes, not against them. You see, your brain is a pattern matching machine, not a data storage device. Your neural networks are constantly looking for patterns and connections. Traditional methods try to stuff facts into your head like you are a computer. But you are not a computer. You are a human being with a brain that's evolved over millions of years to understand through connections and relationships. That's why information dumps feel so overwhelming. When someone throws 10 new concepts at you at once, they're working against your brain's natural abilities to learn rather than with it. As mentioned previously, The hippocampus initially encodes all this information, but during the consolidation process, when your brain replays experiences during rest, it can't strengthen useful pattern from the overwhelming noise, so most of it just fade away. But when you use the S.I.M.P.L.E framework, you're giving your brain exactly what it needs, which is one clear concept that connects to what you already know. You give it time to encode it properly, and then a logical next step that builds on the foundation. During the consolidation phase, your brain can easily identify these well-connected logical patterns as useful and worth strengthening. Now here's the biggest lie in education. We are told that memorizing facts equals understanding concepts. Most people think if they can recognize the right answer on a test, they understand the material. Now trust me, that is nowhere near the truth, and I'm speaking from my personal experiences. Here's the real test for whether you truly understand something or not. Can you explain it to someone in your own words? Can you apply that knowledge to a situation you never seen before? For example, I assume we're all familiar with the fundamental equation F equal ma, which is Newton's second law of motion that we learned in physics. Sure, you can manage to memorize the equations and how to solve the equation in an exam. But can you really explain why force equals mass times acceleration though? Can you use that principle to solve a problem that doesn't look exactly like the textbook example? Let me show you what real understanding really looks like. Think about pushing a shopping cart. When it's empty, a little push gets it moving fast. That's its low mass, high acceleration from the same force. Now fill it with groceries, and suddenly you need much more force to get the same acceleration. The heavier the cart, the more force you need. That demonstrates not just understanding a formula, but also understanding why the formulas works. Force is literally the push needed to change something motion, and bigger objects need bigger pushes to change their motion by the same amount. That's the difference between recognitions and actual understanding. Recognitions is what you get with traditional cramming methods. You recognize pattern you've seen before, but the moment something changes slightly, you lost. With the S.I.M.P.L.E framework, you build true understanding. You know why things work, not just what they are. You can apply the knowledge to new scenarios you never encountered because you understand the underlying principle. And here's the beautiful part. When you truly understand something, you can explain it clearly to others. That's because you built that knowledge yourself, step by step, concept by concept. True understanding lasts years, while memorization only lasts until the exam is over. Here's the paradox that trips up most people. The methods that feels easier in the moment are actually harder in the long run. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you think you're making more progress when you read 10 pages instead of really truly understanding 2 paragraphs because you're covering more ground. However, what's really happening under the surface after you spend 3 hours studying, following the traditional learning method, is that you're actually just creating an illusion of knowledge. Sure, you recognize term, you can fill in some blanks, but when it's come time to actually apply what you have learned, you realize you know absolutely nothing. This explains why we often wait until the day before the exam to study, trying to cram as much information as possible into our brain, knowing that we'll forget about them all 2 days later. It's like building a house on quicksand instead of solid rock. You can skip the solid foundation to go faster, but you pay for it later when everything starts collapsing. And here's the thing about speed. When you understand one topic deeply using the S.I.M.P.L.E framework, the next topic becomes exponentially easier to grasp because you're building on a solid foundation. So while everyone else is struggling with surface level understanding, nodding along in meeting, pretending to understand something, or avoiding engaging in deep discussion about complex topics, imagine you walking into any meeting, any conversation, with complete confidence, knowing that you can break down and understand whatever gets thrown at you because you understand the underlying principles. And even when you don't know the answer, you can still admit it and respond with confidence that I don't know the answer to that right now, but I can look into it and get back to you later, because you know you have a strategy for how to tackle just about any topic. People will start coming to you for answers and advice because you present yourself as someone who actually understands what's being discussed, instead of just hoping nobody asks you for your opinion. And there's something deeply satisfying about truly getting something complex. Once you experience that feeling of genuine understanding, you never want to go back to surface level learning. Now, we've come a long way together. We started with you feeling overwhelmed by complexity. Now you have a framework that actually works with how your brain naturally learns and not against it. Now you have the tool that most people will never discover. The framework is yours. The knowledge is yours. Now it's time to use it. Drop a comment to share how you use this framework and whether it's working out for you. If you find this useful, hit that like button and definitely subscribe, because there will be more videos in the future where we dive into different topics using this exact framework. Now here's what I want you to remember. You're not bad at learning complex things. You just needed a better method, and now you have one.